First of all, never underestimate the power of a thank you card. And second of all, if Martin Luther King Jr. can be late on his thank you cards, you can too. For my generation, actually, this is a powerful message. Thank you cards can sometimes be difficult, but one day they might be framed and hung, which they will be, in our congregation. This sermon, which is based on 2 thank you notes, is in fact another kind of note. It is an invitation. Reverend Bill Sinkford, Unitarian Universalist minister, tells a story about a young child learning to go to sleep at night. It is very dark in the room, and the parent sits at the foot of the bed, reassuring the child. "I am here," they say. "I am here." The child, not yet accustomed to sleeping on their own, is trying to see in the dark and listen for reassurance. The child asks, "Yes, but how do I know you see me? Is your face turned towards me?" My question for us is, where is our face turned? We are in a tender new season for this congregation, that is for sure. We are charting new territory together, moving forward into the unknown. We are reshaping and reconfiguring ourselves, not for a new campus, but for a new world. This is a powerful, fertile season for us. This congregation needs you, needs all of us to thrive and to survive. We have been singing songs and casting the vision of building a new way, building a new way. And during the last 2.5 years, we have had to turn inward. We have had to turn inward for our own safety, really our health, and also because we needed to raise the resources to secure our beautiful future here. But now we are in a new phase, and I believe that for our safety, for our health, mental health, it is time to turn outward and experience the power of community in all of its flaws and its beauty. We still need you to sign up to serve on Sunday morning's Radical Welcome Team. You saw those awesome people in their shirts, their teal shirts, as we work on reshaping how we welcome each other into this holy ground. And while we are serving this beautiful, emerging community, we are also answering the question at the very same time, what does it mean to be missional? What does it mean to understand that we exist not just for ourselves alone, but for the community beyond our walls, as well as the fellowship within? Unitarian Universalism, at its best, can transform the world. This is not lip service. This is not just a cliche. It is not pie in the sky. What I mean is that if we can be healthy enough to do our inner spiritual work within, if we can honor our deepest commitments and stay accountable to each other and to our covenant that upholds the worth and dignity of those who are particularly caught in the crossfire of oppression among ourselves, then, only then, we can truly go beyond. We can become what Reverend Jim Forbes calls a spiritual dream team. You remember the dream team, the basketball team from the Olympics those years ago? Well, I think we might have a dream team among us right now. Now, remember I said the sermon, based on 2 thank you notes, is an invitation. It's an invitation to do the work, the spiritual work, on 3 planes: within, among, and beyond. You are invited to join the spiritual dream team. What if enough of you, I'm talking about you right there, sitting right there, what if enough of you ran for, let's say, the Atlanta Public School Board, and eventually you influenced hiring and curriculum decisions so that before long, our whole lives, our comprehensive sexuality education became the model for health education all across our public school system. Don't say it can't be done. Do not say it can't be done. This is exactly how progress happens, but not without strategy, not without years of planning and supporting each other. This is going on in some Texas school systems right now with strong, vibrant Unitarian Universalist congregations who have moved those curricula forward. You are invited to join the dream team. What if we develop partnerships with other congregations and our mayor's office to envision what mutual aid really looks like, to establish a way to fully staff and support a stronger 311 hotline where citizens can request help in various ways for a crisis? You are invited. Join the spiritual dream team. What if we join an underground network transporting pregnant people to states where they can get their abortion procedures safely? Paying for plane tickets, driving people to the airport, picking them up, and bringing them back home. The First Unitarian Universalist congregation of Dallas is doing exactly that, and flying people to New Mexico. Wow. This is possible. You are invited. I want you to hear this invitation. You are invited to join the spiritual dream team. You know, we cannot even know everything that is possible if we as a congregation are able to work on these three planes within, among, and beyond. Now, this sermon is also an invitation to a stance. Which way are you facing? Asked the child. Are you turned towards me? You may know this other story from our history. Once upon a time, well, specifically in 1960, Ebenezer Baptist Church and the United Liberal Church, which was an earlier name for this church, decided to hold racially integrated youth group gatherings, which just was not done at that time. At that time, Coretta Scott King was Ebenezer's youth group leader. The Ku Klux Klan called Ebenezer Church in the minister's absence and threatened violence at the next integrated youth gathering. Mrs. King and the other church leaders decided the meeting would go on, but they advised the parents so they could keep their children home if they wished. No parent felt like they wanted to keep their children home, and the parents of both churches surrounded, both our church and that church, surrounded Ebenezer Church in a ring of protection with their bodies. Reports are that the only disturbance was a group of men in a car shouting insults. They may or may not have been Klan. And I think about that circle. And I imagine that in the circle of parents, the parents were all facing outward, don't you think? They were protecting the youth group. They were establishing a safe haven for learning, for worship, but their eyes and their hearts were facing outward. I imagine that was their stance. And I invite you into that stance once again in 2022. Not only to create a force field of protection, unless that is what is needed, and that is what is asked for, but to listen well, to listen to community leaders, to be there when they need you. Because now that we finally have walls, friends, it is time to go beyond them. And the pathway has been laid out for us all before. I mean, we have been this congregation before. Some of us may have even physically been a part of that time out there. And when a member of our staff read this letter to me this past Tuesday for the very first time, I was overwhelmed with emotion. Truly, it's difficult for me to hear it now without crying. I mean, a lot of emotion, actually. There was a lot. And I was moved for two reasons. One, because the truth is UUCA was not being thanked for a prophetic ministry. You heard that, right? It was not our protests in the streets. It was not going to the halls of the Capitol, not our physical presence at the March on Selma. No, it was our pastoral ministry that made the most difference to the King family and to the civil rights movement as a whole, because they were lifting that up. And so we could lift them up. We were simply helping a family in need during the greatest crisis they had ever known. And not by simply bringing a single dish and dropping it off. No, we were helping to organize all the food, the lodging, the travel for their out-of-town guests coming to Dr. King's funeral. We helped them sort through and answer the mountains of mail they were receiving from across the globe. I mean, this is an intimate level of neighborliness that you can only really do if you are in deep relationship. I was overwhelmed. I'm still overwhelmed with pride at being just a small part of the legacy of this congregation. That there was a time when we were in proximity with the epicenter of the civil rights movement, not by politics, not by activism, but by close pastoral friendship. This was a church that really knew how to be the church. I mean, I was feeling awash in humility and completely honored to simply be connected to you, let alone serve as your minister. The second reason for the tears, however, was a question that has been hanging over me for a while, perhaps over us all. Are we still that congregation? Are we investing in partnerships with people who are on the front lines? Do we know how to hold and maintain an outward stance, making ourselves vitally important through our ability to care and lovingly offer whatever support the justice leaders might need? Now, I do think we have prepared the way, and we are poised to be this vital again. Yes, we are. Are we? Yes. We know how to provide care. Amen? Amen. We know how to feed each other. We know how to support each other. We have a caregiver support group. It is a lifeline for some members of our congregation and beyond our membership as well. We are making plans to start a grief support group even now. You know, maybe there was a third reason for the tears as well. It is a daunting task to take care of ourselves, to care for each other, and to turn outwards and send our care towards the relationships that are bringing about change. I mean, we will need to tend to it all. Our relationships with self and spirit within. Boy, that's hard enough most days. Our relationships with each other, among. That gets pretty complicated too. And then finally, our relationship with our partners out there, beyond. But you are invited. You are invited into a world that is beautifully, intrinsically complex and responsive. The work of congregational life, it's not really the work of doing and creating things, though we have created a beautiful thing here. I mean, like that, like this thing that we're in, that's holding us. It is actually the work of weaving relationships within, among, and beyond. That's really the thing. The relationships, the energy. This is who we are. This is a story of who we have been and who we can be again. This pathway has already been laid out before us. All we have to do is keep moving in that direction. And these letters, these thank you letters, showed me that we need not be the great vocal leaders of the movement, always expressing ourselves and trying to be heard. We simply need to be in relationships of care, of service with the folks who are doing the work, to show up in every way we can. And if you are one of the folks doing the work, if you are one of the people expressing yourself, and that's your ministry, I bless that, and that is beautiful. And if you are one of those people who are going through this thank you cards for the family in need, who are bringing the food, I always say, my parents who are probably watching right now have always brought the coffee cake for the revolution. And that is holy work. We need all of it. So, I don't know precisely what shape our mission will take. I only know that it is our mission and our values that require us to take a posture, an orientation towards facing inward, then moving among, and then finally beyond, outwards. Our ancestors who were part of this congregation back then, they are speaking to us now. Eugene Pickett, who we did lose over the last 2.5 years, seems to be speaking to us now. The question is, are we ready to listen?
Yes.
And I think we are. Yes, Jennifer, I think we are. The relationships we are constructing with the things in front of us matter. The things in front of us right now, this building, right? Like, we can use things, but we gotta love people. People can become corrupted when they are using people and loving things. Yes? And so the truth is, this building is a thing. And so let us use this campus, this building, to love people. The invitation to join the spiritual dream team, serving within, among, and beyond us, is waiting for your inspired reply. Will you accept it? Got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do, oh Lord. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing, oh Lord. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 The Spirit is telling you something right now. It's time to do. We have everything we need to be this congregation, the congregation we have been, to live into all that we have done here, and to go beyond, to make Atlanta a place where people can truly thrive. All people feel welcomed and cherished, just like you might be feeling this morning. Maybe we can take this little slice of heaven and we can do the work that it takes to bring that heaven into being in our whole city, and maybe even beyond that. But first, let us take that first step together. Go out into your day. Go in blessing. Go in love, even as you bless others along your way.